What's going on again? It's Arluah here with another video in this series, Things I Wish I Knew While I Was in the ICOC after having been a Bible Talk leader, worship leader. So this video, it is about dating. You'll see it in the title. The thing I wish I knew is that dating is for marriage. That was such a freeing thing for me when I came out of the ICOC and somebody told me that. When you set your mind on dating is for marriage and then you date in that context, then there's a lot more clarity on where you need to go. And just a disclaimer, this video is coming from the male perspective in the relationship, and that's what the focus of this information is going to be from and who it'll be for. So with this video, there's a lot of different aspects of dating, but I wanted to focus it around a question I had a lot in the ICOC and a question I discuss a lot with my brothers in the ICOC, and it's a struggle that a lot of us went through in the ICOC. So yeah, the question that came up a lot is, how do you know who's the right person to pick? Here's the thing, Arluah, like what would make somebody have trouble knowing who to pick as their person? One of the reasons is, just to be straight up, if you are in the ICOC and you believe that ICOC is the only true church meaning the only safe place to find believers, let's say you have people that are more suited to be your person that are outside the ICOC, that'll cause a challenge. If you've been through a trauma in life and that has really confused and messed up your identity, it causes a lot of confusing thoughts and distracting thoughts in your mind, that poses a big challenge in figuring out who your person is. Because it's hard to figure out who your person is when you don't know who you are as a person. Also, if you've gone through a trauma and it's kind of confused your identity, if you get into a relationship too fast, what can happen is, because a relationship, like male-female relationships are so close, you run the risk of that person, the other person you're bringing in, becoming your identity, especially after a couple months or a couple years, they becoming your identity, and you are focused on more keeping them happy, because it literally, and it's sometimes hard to tell, but you literally feel like they're a part of you. This leads to what's called codependent behaviors, where you sometimes can't even function if they're not around, or simple things like they don't text back. Or let's say you get into a relationship before finding your purpose, and the relationship again is so close that they may become your purpose because you haven't found your own purpose as yourself. And so if they become your purpose, that can lead to idolatry, which can just result in a lot of satisfaction, because unless somebody is super conceited, nobody in a relationship wants to be the end goal. It's a partnership in a direction. That's marriage. But when you don't have certain things worked out, these are the kind of challenges you can come across. Another challenge is, for not knowing who to pick, is if you just hadn't grown up seeing a healthy example of this. People that grow up in healthy households, you get 14, 15, 16, 17, or at whatever point you move out, you get all those years of watching a healthy man and healthy woman operating together and walking together. And even if they had struggles and challenges, you get to see different ways to overcome those challenges, because all marriages have struggles and challenges. Those are kind of things that make it hard to know who to pick. And I actually want to play a video for you by a pastor named Jerry Flowers. He's someone that is just more experienced and has more authority in this area, and seeing this video actually helped me a lot answering this question when I came out of the ICOC. So here's a video. He's talking about the challenges of knowing who to pick, but then I really want you to catch the ending of what he says is the solution, because it's so powerful.
Going off of compatibility just by itself can be a trap. Because first off, you can be compatible with a demon. Like, devils know what you like too. The type of women that you like, you want her to have more curves in the highway. The type of man that you like, you want him tall with broad shoulders and a beard. The enemy could send you pain gift wrapped as your preference. So that's just the first thing about how compatibility can be a trap. The second thing is compatibility is season-based. It is possible for you to be compatible with the season of their struggle, but not the season of their success. I want somebody who's gonna be there for me if I hit rock bottom. Well, what if they can only handle your rock bottom, but they can't handle your upward season? So now the question becomes, are we really compatible? Or do we just share similar dysfunction? We're both broken in the same area. We're both wounded over the same things. We have the same feelings over the same wounds, so we end up sharing hearts. But what happens if one of you heals and the other one doesn't? Because just because you heal doesn't mean that they're gonna heal, and just because you heal doesn't mean that you can make them heal. What happens if one of you heal? You will remove what y'all had in common. And I want us to be so whole and so secure that when we heal, we don't end up feeling guilty because they're crawling, but we now have wings. It's not just about compatibility, it's about suitability. Does this individual suit my assignment well? Do they complement what it is that God has me doing in earth while I'm here in time? When a man or a woman has found that, that's a blessing. Because when God gives a blessing, you're not gonna have to exchange your mental health as payment to keep it. So maybe you're so exhausted because you're breastfeeding toxicity in order to maintain an image of being happy over the very thing that you told everybody was a blessing.
All right, so that was a video. If you need to take a second to just pause and kind of reflect, go for it. So if you caught at the end, the solution is figuring out who is most suitable to your assignment. That's how you know who to pick. This is so crucial, because that requires you have to know your identity and your purpose, and then the person who is best for you is going to complement and suit that purpose. He calls it the assignment. It's the thing you are put and created to do on this earth. So suitability, finding somebody that you're suitable with. And this was a huge revelation for me, because a lot of the time, so this was my experience in ICOC. I had the desire to date. I had believed that the ICOC was the one true church. And so being a disciple became my identity. And my purpose became, like I said, doing all the activities of the ICOC and trying to do as many activities and serve in the ICOC as much as possible, because it fulfilled my identity. When it came to dating, I went into dating with kind of 3 criteria of trying to figure out, all right, who do I pick? Attraction, compatibility, and faith. With faith, it was because the ICOC is the only true church. Faith is, as long as they're in the ICOC and they are actively showing up to events and actively reading their Bible and actively serving in the ICOC, which was called God's Kingdom, then that took care of the faith area. If they were not that, it's not an option. Or 2 and 3, that just left compatibility and attraction. And what I found whenever I was in discipleship with the brothers is that it would always be like, oh, I'm kind of compatible, compatible meaning like friends, how well you can be friends. We kind of share the similar interests with this person, but then slightly more attractive with this person, but then the interests are kind of more balanced with this person. But it was never there can never be a definite yo, no, this is my person. So this video by Jerry Flowers was so freeing, because the takeaway that I took was you have to know your identity and your purpose, and then the person who is best for you is going to complement and suit that purpose. When that is a priority in the selection process, it becomes very clear who to be with. And check this out. This is incredible. Watch how God sets up Eve with Adam. Genesis 1, 2, and 3. God first created Adam, gave him an identity. He was loved by God, and that's all Adam knew, is that it's him and the Father. Like, that was his identity. And as you saw in the previous videos, that's the true identity. And then God in Genesis 2 gives him a purpose. It's be fruitful and multiply and take dominion. And then a kind of a sub-purpose in that we see in Genesis 2 is God said, okay, now name all the animals. And so Adam is walking in his identity and walking in his purpose. And what does God do? God says in Genesis 2:8, I don't know how this doesn't convert most of the men in the world into loving God. Because God says in Genesis 2:8, it is not good for man to be alone. One of the things you'll realize is that when you are operating in your identity, when you're operating in your purpose, God very much wants to place a woman in your life to go on that adventure with you and support you in that adventure, because it is the one thing he says after his whole 7-day creation, that this is the one thing that is not good. The light and darkness was good. The heaven and separating the sky was good. All the creation was good. And the one thing that wasn't good was that man was alone. So he put Adam to sleep and then placed the woman in his life. Guys, I want to share a testimony. When I was outside of the ICOC, struggling with my identity because I had put my identity in the ICOC, and so now I was separated from it. So now I'm trying to figure out what my identity is. I still had the desire to be in a relationship. I was blessed to have grown up and watched my father and my mother for 17 years live in a relatively healthy marriage relationship. And I got to see what that looked like. And one of the big things I saw was that my father had some kind of internal strength and some kind of internal fortitude that I couldn't articulate, but I knew it was there. And that was one of the foundational pieces of sustaining the health of that marriage. So then when I lost my father and I struggled with identity, and then being ousted out of the ICOC and again struggling with my identity, through that whole process, I chose not to get into a serious dating relationship because I knew I didn't have that internal strength yet that I saw growing up. And I really want those of you who have been through a trauma to please hear me on this, because when I didn't have that internal fortitude that I realized later was identity, I went and instead of searching for a relationship, a woman, even though I had the desire for it, I searched out other men who had that. And then I went and hung out with them, asked them questions, served them just to be in their presence, to understand what that internal fortitude was, what that identity was, how to get that. And so after doing that, and then along with that, reading books on identity, and then along with that, listening to podcasts on identity, then finally getting to the point where I'm starting to understand it, and then starting to understand my purpose and what my different gifts are that I could use to fulfill my purpose, and how to use my story to fulfill my purpose on this earth. When I tell y'all, and this is all a part of this testimony, there was a day where me and some brothers of mine were putting on essentially a church service during COVID at our apartment, while the four of us had gotten kicked out of the ICOC, but we were still trying to seek God. We had gotten to different places in our walks of figuring out identity, figuring out purpose, and I was at I guess what God would determine a healthy place, because God brought somebody to that church service, and I'm now a year and a half later, I'm now going to be marrying that person when this video shot about 2 weeks. And so I'm so excited, because this process and this information is one, so different from my mindset while I was in the ICOC, but it's two, I've seen this process in the Bible, particularly how God worked with Adam and Eve. I've seen this process explained in different books by people different strong scholars that have done research and case studies and things like that, and have confirmed this process. And then I tried this process out on my own, and these are the results I'm getting. And I really want to share this with you, those of you who might be in the ICOC, struggling with figuring out that internal fortitude, and you may have the desire to want to be in a relationship. This is a process that works because it's God's process. Grow in your identity first. Let God show you who you are. Do the counseling. Get in the community. Read the word slowly and study it and meditate on it. Pray to God and ask him to lead you and guide you and just to fill you and to receive his love. And he says it is not good for man to be alone. He will take care of you. He will look out for your needs, but it takes a submission to him. Like I said in the last video, it took me between getting ousted out of the ICOC and finally starting to feel comfortable with my identity of who God said I was. That was about 2.5 years of digging and searching and reading and getting mentorship and guidance. And with that 2 years, I still had the desire for a relationship, but I wasn't pursuing it because I had submitted that desire to God, because I knew it wasn't what was best for me. So I really hope that's helpful. Be in tune with your identity, be in tune with your purpose. Another great thing to do is finding a healthy Christian couple that you admire their relationship, you admire how they raise their kids, you admire how they treat each other. Ask them for advice. Ask them to help you out. Get into a mentoring relationship with them. It's great because they can go on dates with you and do double dates with you. They can get to know you so that they can help you identify the things you may not even see in your own life, so that you can be better equipped to bring a more whole and full and internally strong man into your relationship. And serve that couple too, because a lot of couples have a lot on their plate. Serve them. Ask them how you can be of help to them. If they have a business, offer work for the business, whatever you can, just to be in their presence, to be able to learn and watch how they operate. That's a super, super helpful thing to do as you go through this process. I know sometimes you might have been assigned a discipler or assigned a leader, and you may not have felt like some of them have always connected with your heart. Or sometimes they're in your life for a semester and then they are taken to a different region or taken to a different ministry. You want to find a mentor, ideally a healthy couple who, it doesn't matter what season, what semester it is, like, you can connect with them. And this is going to take time and effort, especially if you have into a trauma that's make relationships tough. This is worth the effort. This is worth the maybe awkward or confusing moments you might go through for a couple of the interactions, but this is worth it. So that's what I wish I knew on about dating. It's about suitability, not just who is in the ICOC. It's about finding somebody that complements your assignment while you're here on this earth. Please check out the other videos if you haven't already. Check out the resources and books in the description. Link also to Jerry Flowers. He has a whole series on relationships. And yeah, because it was helpful for me to have someone to talk to about these things, if you'd like to just talk through some of these things, I'll be hosting a Zoom call on just so we can dialogue and talk through these things. I can answer any questions that you may have, or if you want to just come to listen, and I'll share more details of my story and my experiences. And I will catch you in the final video. Peace.